Hello. Welcome to another video where I talk entirely too long about a simple topic. And what better topic than today's topic? From Gettier problems to the Gordian knot, today we talk about how to become a better problem solver. For me, problem solving is truly the core pillar of TTRPGs, and being good at it can help you, no matter if you're a forever ever DM or a never have I ever DM. But, as you'll come to find out over the course of the video, problem solving is a two-way street. As something of a professional and perpetual fencer to myself, I feel the answer may lie somewhere in the middle. Okay, let's get into it. I would like to think the benefits of being a good problem solver are obvious, but maybe it might help to define things. Much the same as in other areas, problem solving in TTRPGs is the process by which players overcome challenges. This applies to any type of challenge, be it combat, social, or exploration. So basically, everything in RPGs. Being sharp at problem solving is not necessarily so you can win at everything, and it's not to prove your superior wrinkled brain. It will make you more creative and help you roleplay your character while maintaining a satisfying pace for the story. I hear many people say some variation of, I wish my players were better at coming up with solutions, or I wish I was more creative. Welcome to the crux of the two-way street. Who is in the wrong? Is the DM presenting problems that allow for creative solutions, or are their players truly struggling? Okay, what's the issue here? Why is there an ungodly amount of time left on this video? Well, my impatient and hypothetical friend, the issue, like all issues in tabletop role-playing games, is communication, with a sprinkle of game rules and social dynamics. So join me while I lay out my badly constructed examples. You all see two doors with one guard by each door. One of the doors will guide you to freedom, and behind the other is certain doom. You don't know which is which, but the guards do. One of the guards always tells the truth, and the other always lies. You don't know which is the truth teller or the liar. However, both guards know each other. What do you do? Me? My persuasion's pretty bad, so okay, I cast Fireball. Okay, look, while certainly tailored for the topic, I'm sure some of you have encountered a similar situation, where players give up because their character sheet says no. I'll also say that this example has problems on the DM's end as well, but this is something we'll save for later. So, let's start with the players. The immediate problem is them looking at their character sheet. While an invaluable tool, it has a nasty side effect of creating a box for some players when put in a situation like this. It creates a box where ideas are filtered through what your character sheet and the game mechanics say. In the last example, the players assumed they'll need to persuade the guards, which they think they're likely to fail due to their bad persuasion. I think the root cause of this is the players interacting with the mechanics on the wrong level. This is not to say that they're playing the game incorrectly. More so, they are limiting how they think by elevating the mechanics above other aspects of RPGs. RPGs are a free-form medium. The whole point is that the rules are there to translate your actions in a dramatic way for the story, not to constrain you and the actions you're making. In essence, this player is skipping steps by assuming what the DM has planned for the scenario and what skill the DM will call for, resulting in them giving up on the situation. But also, they're treating this scenario as either a pass or a fail. We'll circle round to this topic in the DM section, but keep in mind though, that as a player, a failed roll shouldn't be feared. I'm not trying to say that you need to take actions your character isn't good at. I'm trying to point out that inaction makes for a bad story and boring gameplay. So, how do you escape this multi-layered box? The first step is to identify the problem or obstacle you're facing. Sometimes it'll be immediately apparent, and other times it won't. The next step is to reframe the problem into a question. This will hopefully get you thinking about the solutions, not the problem itself. You want to avoid making judgment on your ideas and others' ideas. Don't disregard them. This is more difficult than it sounds, but will hopefully get you coming up with more ideas. You always want to remember this handy phrase, initiate rather than evaluate. meaning you don't want to sit there Doctor Stranging through every possibility. Don't just ask any question, ask relevant questions in or out of character that further narrows the complex problem or that further solidifies a potential solution. For instance, using the last example, the players know the problem, so they'll want to ask questions that get them closer to a solution. They could talk to the guards in character, but they could also ask their DM if there's anything that differentiates the guards or the doors. Another way of initiating is by involving your fellow players in your process. Getting more perspectives will likely mean that the end result is a more creative one. Something as simple as, what do you think of X idea can get the ball rolling? Once you have a course of action in mind, you want to explain it to your DM in a concise way that describes your plan. The key here is to explain it as simply as you can, while still getting your point across with the aim that your description helps the DM in adjudicating the rules. If you have to talk out of character, you should do it, but you always want to remember your group's preferences. So, if your group wants to keep things in character, you want to be respectful of that. I personally feel that allowing some level of out-of-character talk can help smooth communication between all parties. Perfect segue. Role-playing is a pillar of RPGs. It's in the name after all, but I do feel it can complicate things.
Pitchforks! Can't be an angry mob without pitchforks!
Coming up with ideas is already difficult, but also having to filter those ideas through the lens of whether my character would think about that adds another layer of difficulty. This is something you'll improve in given experience and time. To help with this, I suggest having a firm idea of how your character acts and thinks before getting into a situation like this. Hopefully, this will make thinking of in-character ideas much more natural when reframing the problem into a question. But if you have an idea that you think is truly something your character would never think of, bearing in mind that thinking of something and doing something are completely different, intrusive thoughts, you could bring it up to the group out of character or make it a plot point for later in the campaign. I personally feel that role-playing is supposed to be a tool to create fun, not get in the way of it.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And if a situation presents itself where the pace of the game is stopped because of whatever reason, I'm okay with acting out of character a little bit. Okie dokie, onto the DM side. The first thing to talk about is how you present situations to your players and the difference between presenting problems versus puzzles. The trick here is that all puzzles are problems, but not all problems are puzzles. A puzzle generally has one solution or one way to solve it, whereas a problem allows for multiple of either. Using our previous example of lying and truth-telling guards, the issues arise because the DM is assuming they and their players are thinking on the same level. This is not to say that you shouldn't put puzzles in your game, more so that they should be designed like a problem. Ideally, you want to present situations to your players in a way that allows for experimentation, and you want to have a hook in that presentation that provides players with some clue to what to ask questions about. Another tip I've heard of is to design the situation but not the solution. Meaning, when you're prepping a problem, you want to prep everything about it except any solutions to the problem. The idea behind this is to help keep an open mind and allow for player creativity by going along with any player solutions that make sense to you. This doesn't work for everyone, but I'd suggest that being supportive and patient with your players, while always important, is especially so here. The other thing I'd suggest is to have an idea of what would be effective and not effective, while not placing a reliance on either. For instance, investigating the room could be more effective than brute force. You probably want to keep yours vaguer than the ones in this example, so you don't end up creating a bias in your head. This brings up a delicate balance for DMs, the balance of when to say no. I feel, as a DM, you probably want to say yes to most player ideas. This is especially so if your aim is to encourage creativity. Saying no to a player's ideas will stifle their creativity. That's unavoidable. This doesn't mean that you should feel like you're being held hostage by your players. If an action feels like it shouldn't work, I suggest saying something like, you can try. You want to avoid saying something like, it's going to be hard or it's a long shot. Statements like these are redundant. The players should already know the action's going to be hard. But also, these statements are basically saying, I don't think you should be able to succeed. so it's best to avoid them. Sometimes you have to say no. Some things are impossible, but in these cases, I'd suggest saying something like, no, but if you tried X or had Y, that might help. Rather than an outright no, you want to build upon their ideas in a way that makes sense for the situation. If your player fails their roll, that's fine. But it's even better if you have them fail in such a way that leaves room for later success. There should still be some stakes to a failed roll, and consequences should still happen. The intention here is to progress the story forward rather than stopping it and killing all creativity. When designing your problems, you want to avoid situations where your players need to make a successful roll to get them past the problem. Not only can it lead to awkward situations where your player might not catch on to your plan, and even if they do fail, you'll have to scramble to get them past the problem. Those are valid enough reasons, but also it makes for boring storytelling. You want to challenge the player and their character, not the numbers on a piece of paper. Now onto the last thing, I promise. Using all the stuff we've been chatting about, how would I redesign the guards problem from earlier? Well, I probably wouldn't have something like this in my game. Riddles and logic puzzles are kind of hit and miss, so you're gonna have to force me at gunpoint. Everyone, calm down. It's cool. Everyone put your weapons away. Puzzles are really fun and integral to the game, I swear. And star wipe to the example. Before you see a compact but unusually tall empty room with 2 ornate doors on the opposite wall from you. You see 3 empty alcoves on the western wall and the same on the eastern wall. Above these alcoves, around 15 feet up, or 5 meters for normal folk, you see a noble-looking dragon bust with an open, snarling mouth on each side. After investigating the room, the players will discover that the doors have no lock, and that each alcove has a subtle button that produces a unique item. One produces a quill, another produces an ink pot with ink, another produces a roll of paper, another produces some string, another produces a pole, and the last produces a steel mirror. These alcoves, after some time, will be able to produce more of the same items. The goal of this problem is for the players to experiment with the items and eventually figure out that they'll need to write a question on the paper and place it in the mouth of the dragon. The dragons will respond to the questions exactly like the guards in the previous example. So the one on the western wall always lies and the other always tells the truth. The dragons will also explain the scenario of lying and truth-telling, and one door leading to certain doom and the other not. The players will need to experiment with the other items to find out that the string is unusually strong and easily capable of withstanding a person's weight, the pole can extend and shrink, and the mirror, should they catch the dragons in its reflection, reveal a color. The western wall dragon is actually green, and the eastern wall dragon is silver. This hints towards their lying and truth-telling nature. The intention here is that the dragons are too high off the ground to simply place the notes in their mouth, so the players will need to get creative with the other elements to do so. If the players have abilities or equipment to help them get the notes into their mouths, that's even better. Okay, that's all folks. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about next time. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't enjoy the video, show us why by doing those things anyway.